Ladies and gentlemen, it is pro wrestling's giant personality, the height of independent wrestling, Mr. Larger Than Life, big time Ethan Higher, and you're watching the Final Count podcast.
This is Mega Monzo, and you're Mega listening and Mega watching the Final Count podcast. Yeah!
Welcome to the Final Count Spotlight. Here's your host, Ryan Mosley.
Hello, everybody. It is the Croc Rockin', Nickelback Poppin', Curls for All the Girls, the Terminator, Sam Beal, as seen on Impact Wrestling, and you are listening to the Final Count.
Hey everybody, Anthony Corelli here, formerly known as Santino Morella, and you are listening to the Final Count.
Hey, it's Eric Ortiz, Voice of the Valley from OVW, and you're checking out the Final Count.
Citizens, this is Super Z, and you're watching the Final Count.
That is right. It is that time again. It is the Final Count Spotlight. And on this episode of the Final Count Spotlight, it's going to be a little different, but it's going to be one that I'm sure you're going to enjoy. And we're going to learn a lot on this episode of the Final Count Spotlight. I'm going to be joined by the wife of someone who is not a stranger. He's an alumni of this podcast. He is none other than JMo Jesse Morris. His wife is going to be on here right here on the Final Count Spotlight on this episode, joining me. And also he's going to be joining me as well. But she is going to be talking about, the life of the wife of or spouse of a pro wrestler. And so, it's going to be a great episode, and we'll get her on in just a few moments. But first, I do want to thank every one of you out there listening or watching, whether you're listening to us on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, whatever platform you're listening to us or watching us, even on YouTube. I want you to know that we thank you for all of your support. I thank you for all the years. We're on 8 seasons. This is season 8 of the Final Count, which is a huge thing. And I'm so excited to that everyone has joined us on the ride here at the Final Count and joined me on the ride here at the Final Count. Also want to go ahead and thank one of our sponsors that we thank every episode. We thank all of our sponsors, but we thank this one especially. I want to go ahead and thank them before we get into the show here. ColinElbowBrand.com. Use our promo code FinalCountKY to save 10% at checkout. Again, go to ColinElbowBrand.com. Use promo code FinalCountKY to save 10% at checkout. And speaking of Colin Elbow, while you're there, let Al Snow and the guys over at Colin Elbow Brand know that the Final Count sent you. Grab yourself a nice t-shirt, a nice hoodie, the hats even. I mean, go over there and get yourself some nice Colin Elbow Brand swag. And with more on Colin Elbow, I'll throw it to Al Snow.
Wrestling. A love and a passion we all share. I've started a wrestling brand. The wrestling brand. A brand founded on the aspects of wrestling. 2 entities working together to create a product that connect emotionally for people everywhere. Collar and Elbow is the brand. Passion and love for wrestling is the drive. I am Al Snow, and this is Collar and Elbow, the wrestling brand.
Again, that's ColinElbowBrand.com. Use promo code FinalCountKY to save 10% at checkout. You're not only helping ColinElbowBrand.com, you're also helping us here at the Final Count. And so thank you again for all of your support, all of your likes, all of your shares, all the good stuff that you do on our little social media and supporting us here at the Final Count. With that being said, I am joined now by my guest, along with her husband, Mr. JMo. Let's bring on Miss JMo. How y'all doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Doing great here as well, and I'm glad to hear that y'all are doing great as well. And I'm excited about this episode. Ever since we set it up, I'm very excited to have you both on. And JMo, you're no stranger, as I said, no stranger to us here at the Final Count.
I'm pretty sure I was one of your first guests, wasn't I? Pretty close.
One of, yeah.
Yeah.
You were in season 1, yes. And so that's really awesome to say, and it's come a long way. So Miss JMo, let me first ask you, how did the two of you meet?
So I was working concessions at a promotion in Madison, Indiana called Supreme, and he was wrestling, obviously, and apparently he likes nachos. So, but yeah, I was concessions and he was wrestling, and we just kind of bumped into each other, and just it's been history since then.
Awesome. I had to say, yeah, nachos, that's a good way to concession stand and nachos and wrestling. You can't go wrong meeting your significant other that way. A great bonding way right there. Did you watch wrestling growing up, or would you have you been a fan? Had you been a fan before y'all met, or?
Yes. So I watched wrestling, and one of my favorites was ODB. She gave me. I was bullied a lot when I was younger, and she gave me confidence because I was a tomboy. So she gave me a lot of confidence in me being the way I was and my personality and being different than all the girls in the pink and the bows, and because I didn't like that stuff. So it was nice to see somebody who I related to, and something that I really enjoyed watching. I actually wanted to be a wrestler for a long time, and I actually went to training for like a day, and then I realized that I didn't. It was too much. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something else.
Definitely. I understand that for sure. I actually trained like 2 times. I think I went up for 2 days. So everyone knows Miss Charlene McKenzie from OVW referee. And
girl, I love Charlene.
Yes. Same here. And I went up to Madison to Supreme to train with her a couple times. This was years ago, like in 2009, and got in there, took some bumps, and I was like, "Oh no, this is not for me." I was sore the next day. Oh my goodness! But I'm like, I just wanted to be a part of the wrestling business too.
It's a lot harder than people think.
It really is. It really is. Now let me ask you. As far as being the wife of a wrestler, how do you manage to travel and time apart?
What was the question?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, as far as being a wife of a professional wrestler, how do you manage the being on the road, the travel, and then the time apart?
It's just wrestling has been a part of our lives. That's how we met. It's just kind of our normal. There are days where I'll go an hour seeing him within 3 days, or he'll miss birthdays and holidays and stuff, but he makes up for it. We make up for it when we can, but it's worth it because seeing him do what he loves, seeing him, coaching the kids in the future wrestling stars, it's all worth it. The time apart and the traveling. And a lot of times now I actually go with him. I actually get the privilege of going with him on a lot of road trips, or I'm getting my own bookings now. So it's like traveling we don't spend much time apart, but
yeah, early on in my career, obviously when we first got together, she went through a lot. There was a lot of sacrifices and stuff that she had to go through with me being a wrestler. Like she said, missing birthdays, missing holidays. But without the backbone, without that support system, I mean, it's impossible to make it in this business without a solid support system. And I'm so thankful that you're even doing this podcast today. I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of unseen heroes in the wrestling business, and spouses are one of those unseen heroes. There are several sacrifices, not only with just missing important dates and stuff, but even with just everyday life, as a champion of a company, I'm going out, being a champion, going out, seeing fans, being this larger than life persona, but the dishes still got to be done at home. The trash still needs to be taken out at home, and so there's things that we're not there for that the average person is home for. And those are sacrifices as a support system that they make, and they pick up that slack. They say marriage is 50-50, but it's never 50-50. It really isn't. There's always give or take. There's been times where I'm not going to lie, especially with, our situation with my sickness and stuff. When I started to get sick before my transplant, I mean, it was 90-10, 95-5 even in some cases. And so without the bond that we were able to develop and the support system that we were able to have together, I don't think either one of us would have made it. I know Danger and Leo, I wouldn't be alive today. So
definitely.
There are times where, because he is an agent at OVW, everybody's just blowing him up, wants his attention. And it seems like his attention is elsewhere. So there are times where I'm just like, I want my husband. Like, I don't want wrestling. I want him to have my attention, not their attention. But, I'm a very giving person. So just knowing how much he loves wrestling, I told him from day one, I will never make you choose between me and wrestling. It won't happen. I'll walk away before you have to choose. So, and I stand by that. I always have.
And as she said, we're kind of unique in the situation now because she is a professional photographer and she actually does take photography pretty seriously. And she's starting to pick up wrestling bookings now. Like there's shows she's booked on. Like Friday, she did a wrestling show booking for pictures that I wasn't even booked on. So now I'm riding the shows with her. It's been a unique situation for us, but it's actually, as she said, wrestling's kind of the foundation of where we started. So it's always kind of been a foundation of who we are. We couldn't imagine our lives without wrestling. No. I know I definitely couldn't imagine my life without wrestling. It kept me alive. And I will always be grateful for the things that I've been able to accomplish within this business. For most wrestlers, wrestling's our escape from reality. And when you have a hard reality hitting you at home, like in my case, before my transplant, I was dying. And so wrestling kept me alive. Now, don't get me wrong. She's a strong part of the reason I was alive. But having that escape from reality, it allowed me the escape that I needed to be able to keep pushing through. So
definitely. I love the two of you. Like I said, marriage is not 50-50. It's give and take. You have to give and take. And I love that, you balance each other out. You know what I'm saying? For lack of a better way of saying it, you kind of balance each other out. Like you're both each other's support system, each other's backbone. You are the backbone for each other. I love that. And then you've built that foundation, like you said, on wrestling as well. You mentioned being a wrestling photographer. How did you become doing wrestling? How did you become taking pictures for wrestling?
So I've always been interested in photography. I've always had a kind of a knack for it. I've always wanted to be a photographer. One day, I told him that, and he bought me a camera one day, and I just kind of started going to shows and with him and just taking photos like in the crowd. And then it just developed into getting, behind the barricade and more in front of like better camera, better, this taking promos, going on road trips. It just kind of developed. I don't really know it just came so fast. Like I was just sitting in the crowd taking pictures one day, and now I'm up front with all the action. And
if you'd have told me 5 years ago that I'd be buying a wrestling license for my life in the state of Kentucky, I'd have told you you're crazy. But she actually is licensed in the state of Kentucky.
Yes.
The last 2 years she has been. So it's crazy where our world has ended up and where we are today. But it's actually, made us even closer because, like she said, she's able to go on those road trips. She realizes now the reason why I love road trips. There's so much, there's so much that goes on, on wrestling road trips, especially when you're riding with other guys. You can tell stories. You can talk about good times, talk about bad times.
Well, in the bond you can grow. Like Josh Ashcraft is one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life.
Don't tell him she said that.
I love that guy with my heart and soul. I would take a bullet for that guy. But he goes on a couple road trips with us a couple times a year, and him and I are in the back, and Jesse and DeGette are in the front, and we just tell stories, and
she's referring to a road trip we took to Wisconsin. last year, and it was me and Josh Ashcraft and to Get Bundles, which you guys are familiar with at the podcast too. OVW.
Yeah, I love that guy too.
Superstar as well.
He's amazing.
And of course her and we had such a good time.
We did.
I missed the exit. It's exit 221B there, big dog. I got you to get. He was cussing me up and down because he told me where the exit was, and I still missed it. But it was a good time. It was all in good fun. So
yeah,
absolutely.
to get was a good co-pilot. You just were a bad job.
Bad job. Hey, we made it. We made it in one piece.
We did.
But moments like that, and now she's getting to experience those with me, and it's actually made us even closer as far as being able to spend more time together and experience those things together. So
I love that it brings you, like you said, closer together and everything. What are some things that outside of wrestling, we talk about wrestling, but what are some of the things that outside of wrestling that the two of you get along with when you're not on the road or anything? That you do like to do whenever you're not on the road?
I don't even like this woman. If it wasn't for wrestling, we wouldn't be together. No, not
really. Literally. We like to go to the gym.
Every day.
We like to do concerts.
Showing off the guns.
He's big into.
I've worked hard for him.
He's big into like sports and stuff. So every once in a while, I'll go to a sports game or but just when we're not wrestling or when we're not out on the road, we kind of just take time to slow down and enjoy our friends or just enjoy each other. Like most days we just lay around and be lazy and just enjoy time together.
Yeah, we have a small circle of friends that we hang out with on a regular basis outside of wrestling. And we talk about nothing wrestling related. Right. We just enjoy our times together.
The only one that's a wrestler in that group was Aaron Grider.
And he's not really a wrestler. He just pretends to be a wrestler sometimes. So, but we do board games, and we'll have we're doing an adult prom. We're doing a murder mystery. All kinds of fun activities and stuff that aren't wrestling related. We try to balance ourselves out. We don't get a lot of time outside of wrestling. As she said, as an agent of OVW, it does take a lot of my time. There's so much that goes into writing a TV show that, behind the scenes that you would be just amazed at everything that goes in. There's a whole group of people that are unseen when it comes to writing TV and a production crew and things that the fans don't get to see on a regular basis that, the behind the scenes goes into making a wrestling show happen, especially on a weekly basis. And it does take a lot of my time. So it is a huge sacrifice, not only for her, but for us as a couple a lot of times.
Well, like this week, for example, you were at OVW Thursday. Yep. I came to OVW. Friday, I had EWA. And then Saturday, he had Tough Love and I had Supreme. So we were actually separated on Saturday.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, we kind of just did nothing.
Absolutely. Slept late, got up, slept a little more.
Took it as rest day. What are, you talk about getting bookings as doing photography. What are some promotions you take pictures for? And then do you plan on adding any more promotions?
So I do OVW road shows every once in a while. And then I'm at Supreme in Madison, EWA in Danville, Kentucky. That's Adrian Alexander's
Shout out to Adrian Alexander.
Yes.
Great guy.
I did Grindhouse for
You need to get Adrian on your podcast.
You do.
This is a shout out to Adrian himself. You need to get Adrian on your podcast.
He's
Adrian, hit up Ryan. Let's get you on the show,
wrestler,
buddy.
Yeah.
What is okay? So, what is like we kind of talked about, like outside of wrestling and everything. What is, and then the sacrifices, and have you found it easier or hard to balance? Like, what's the easiest thing, I guess, that I'm trying to ask? The easiest thing that you've found as far as balancing wrestling and life goes. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
So the easiest way,
work-life balance.
Yeah.
Work-life balance.
Just when we're not wrestling, to not, like, we don't speak about it. It's just, that's our time. And then just, not being jealous of wrestling or not, I guess what I'm trying to say is not being envious of it because it gets his time, being very supportive because, being envious and getting jealous doesn't get you anywhere. Supporting him is just much easier and it makes him happy. It makes me happy. It's something we both love. I know there are couples out there where one hates it and one loves it, but, just support your spouse, in everything they do. That's why I go on the road trips. That's why I jump in when I'm needed concessions, merch, and not just my spouse. I support my wrestling kids as well. I have a full list, even hired JJ Lawson, Dallas Edwards, Alice Crowley, Stephen Dumeyer, Billy Starks, all my kids. I love them with everything in me, and I will always support them. Like we just had a road trip this weekend with Dallas, Ethan, JJ, and I love those kids. And Tegan Rose, all my kids. I love all of them. So they give me purpose in wrestling as well. I'm a photographer. I'm a wrestling mom. I'm a wrestling wife. So I wear many hats. So it's chaotic, but I don't think I could live without the chaos.
Right. We're extremely unique in the fact that, with myself, as a lot of your viewers are aware of, prior to me receiving my liver transplant in July of 2023, I got really, really sick. For the last 7 years before my transplant, I just kept getting sicker and sicker, and she had to slowly watch me die. I mean, that was my reality. And so the more and more my health, sorry, trying not to choke up here. More and more my health took a toll on my body. The more and more she had to watch me realize what I love wasn't going to be able to be a part of my life no more. And that was a very difficult time. And for me, for us, and as a wife, being in a situation where there's nothing you can do but watch the one you love just deteriorate and get to the point where he can't do what he loves. To be able to make it to where we did and receive my transplant and me getting a second lease on life, it has just solidified everything we've already always known and everything we've always believed in as far as how important the wrestling is to us and how much it means to us as a couple, as a family, as an individual myself. And getting the second lease on life now, we're more in this together than we ever were. Now, don't get me wrong, earlier on in our relationship, there were struggles, especially when there was a divide between me not being home and her not being a part of it as much. And there was a divide, and there was some learning curves that we had to go through as far as, okay, listen, I'm not going to be able to do that for you today because I've got to go do this. So there were those typical arguments that any marriage would have. But as I said, in our unique situation with what I had to go through and what we had to go through, it's actually just made us even stronger now today. So
being a wrestling wife it's not easy. I don't want it to sound easy. It's definitely not. And it's not for the faint of heart. I'll give you that. There are times where I want to strangle him. There are times where he scares the holy living crap out of me. But it takes a strong person to be with a professional wrestler, no matter what you're doing. Who your significant other, the spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. It's a different world. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's worth it. It's a lot of fun.
To that point, what are some of the challenges being the wife of a husband that is a wrestler? It's such a physically demanding profession. Professional wrestling is, as well as mentally even. What are some challenges as far as that goes?
Just mentally, like he said, we went through a lot. So mentally, I've been drained for the past 7 years. So just being the one who carries the marriage, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, but he was physically here, but he wasn't like mentally here. So having to carry that, keep him alive, make sure the house is clean, the laundry's done. You know, it was a lot. And then just making sure that, you know, him having wrestling always, because I knew that it would be good for him, no matter what. Just making sure that was a part of our life still.
It's funny though, because he brings it up in that way though, because we literally just had a conversation the other night because I was laying in bed and she looked down and I had a bruise on my arm. She's like, "Where'd that come from?" Bruises. I was like, "I have no clue." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're wrestling again," because it used to happen all the time. All the time, I'd end up with just random bruises. And she's like, "Where'd that come from?" I don't know.
Or he'll wake up in the morning and go, "Oh my God, I got hit by a Mack truck," or like he complains a lot about hurting.
So those are starting to happen again after so many years.
I forgot how much he loved that.
Waking up and not being able to stand up and out of the bed because your back hurts.
And I have my own physical demands, like my kneeling on the hardwood floors and my back, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I don't know how. Like, I barely do anything, and I can't wake up and walk out of bed the next morning. I can't imagine how they do it.
At the show Friday night, her knees starting to hurt, and she's like, "Hey, could you see if somebody has some knee pads?" So I ran to the back, and I got some knee pads with this guy. I brought them out to her, but they were wet. She's like, "I'm not putting these on. These things are nasty." I'm like, "Well, you asked for a pair of knee pads. They're coming for a wrestler. They're going to be nasty."
Oh my. You know, wrestling and wrestling, you know, you have these larger than life personas. Talk about, you know, separating, and you have fans. You talk about they want JMo's attention, you know, and then balancing. So how do you balance JMo the wrestler versus Jesse the husband?
That's a very good question. I'd like to know the answer to this. That's a great question, Ryan. That is awesome.
So I'll be honest, there's not really much of a difference between JMo and Jesse. JMo is a hard ass and he's kind of an asshole, but
so is Jesse.
JMo is more, but my husband's he has a big heart. He, you know, spoils me to death. So, you know, JMo is just, I guess you could say, I souped up Jesse.
That's actually a great way to say it. Like the best wrestlers are themselves. Mm-hmm. Like if you can get to the point in this business where you could just be yourself, that's when it kind of clicks. It's
there's really not much of a difference between JMo and Jesse. He is JMo all the time.
I've kind of it's. You know, it's, you know, for me, you know, it does become your reality. You know, I've been JMo half my life. You know, I practically over half my life that it's been my identity, and it does become who you are. Mm-hmm. You know, when you know, speaking of before my transplant, you know, that was one of the things I struggled with. I was, you know, one of the conversations that we had at one point in time was like, I don't know how to be anything but JMo. Like, I don't know how to be Jesse. I don't know how to be that guy. You know, I was that guy as a kid. I was that guy growing up. But, you know, my whole adult life, I started wrestling when I was 19 years old. My whole adult life, I've been a wrestler. I've been JMo Jesse Morris. And so I didn't know how to not be that guy. So it was a struggle. And I'm so glad I'm able to continue to be JMo every single day. And, you know, I say it, and it's not just something I say, it's something I live by. I'm grateful for every single day. You know, my motto is make today better than yesterday, and I try to do that every single day.
Well, now I have my own identity. Everybody, Mrs. JMo. I don't have a name anymore. It's Mrs. JMo. That's it.
And what's funny about that is early on, she would get frustrated. She's like, "I'm not just your wife. I'm somebody too. They didn't know who I am. I'm not just JMo's wife." But now she loves being called Mrs. JMo. So kind of.
I love it. I love it because it gives you an identity too. You know, not that you don't have an identity, but it's like, hey, you know, like you said, you want to be somebody. You're somebody, right? So everybody's like, hey, Mrs. JMo.
Yep.
What is the most rewarding aspect of being the wife of a professional wrestler?
Just, you know, when I'm on a show with him, or I'm even sitting in the crowd, watching him come out of the curtain and just seeing that joy on his face when fans are booing him, cheering him, you know, they're changing his name, whatever they're doing. Just that elation on his face makes it all worth it. Knowing, that he's doing what he loves and that we're doing it together, whether I'm being a fan and booing him or cheering him. I like booing him better, but or I'm taking photos of him, just watching him get to do what he loves, especially after, laying his boots in the ring, thinking we would never get back to this point ever. It's just, for me, it's like, what do you call that? Serotonin? Or what's the joy drug?
My happy place.
Yeah, the happy drug in your brain. It's very rewarding.
Wrestling's definitely my drug of choice.
Yeah.
I don't drink. I don't do drugs. It is definitely my drug of choice. And it's more addicting than anything that I could put in my body. I promise you that.
And watching him, teach the new generation of wrestling, that's also, the kids, when they come up to me, oh my God, when are you going to post your photos? I'm waiting. Or, hey, Mom, can you do this? Hey, Mom, can you do that? Like, it's just, it gives me that purpose feeling.
I love that. I love that, it gives you the purpose. And then, Jesse, like you said, wrestling is your drug of choice. That's how I feel like as a wrestling fan, as a wrestling podcaster.
Mm-hmm.
That's my passion. That's my love. I love to talk about it. I can't hardly find a thing besides wrestling to talk about.
Right.
So, I mean,
as a wrestling fan, like, I'll be honest with you, man, we wouldn't be able to do what we do without you guys. We're so grateful for you guys every single week. But, like at OVW, we run a weekly television show. Like, without you guys showing up every single week to support us and to watch our shows, we would just be guys in tights, playing with each other. Like, I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. We are so grateful for our fans. We're so grateful for the OVW universe. I mean, you guys are amazing. You guys think that we, are entertaining you guys, and we make your guys' nights and we make your guys' week. I'll be honest with you, it's not even close. Without you guys, like, you guys blow our minds away every single week. Like this past week at Tough Love, a sellout crowd, watching 500 fans screaming. There ain't no other feeling like it. Saturday night in Louisville, Kentucky, in front of 500 fans, it's unbelievable. And you guys are truly amazing, and we're grateful for you guys. And we're so thankful that we have your guys' support. So
definitely. Miss JMo, what would you say would be the best piece of advice that you would give to other wrestling wives, or girlfriends or significant others of a wrestler that might struggle with the best way to support their husband or their wife, even that's a wrestler?
So first of all, this is being very brutally honest. Jealousy is ugly. Don't be jealous. It's, they come home to you at the end of the night, let them just do what they love. Be there to support them. Even if you don't go to the shows, or, just support them any way you can. Watch it at home, and just be understanding. If they have to miss a birthday or anything like that, just make up time for it. I know there's a lot of people out there, have kids and things like that, but, just they're doing what they love to do. And it means a lot when you support them, and be understanding, and just, you don't have to get it, but just, make them feel like you get it to a point.
Definitely. Great advice right there. Now talking about the 3-year journey, the transplant. Can you talk about the moment that you found out that you were sick, and what the initial feeling was like? What was that like?
For me or for her?
For both. Like, how did it feel for Miss JMo, and JMo? How did it feel for you?
So, to be completely honest with you, when I very first got diagnosed with my PSC, I had no clue I was sick. None. It was a normal day. This was, I can't remember the exact date. It was late November.
Yep.
And I went to the gym that day. It was a normal day. She was out Christmas shopping, and I was watching the Louisville game. I'm a huge Louisville fan. Go Cards. And I was watching a Louisville game. It was halftime. They were losing by like 20 points. And I was frustrated, and I got up to go down the hallway, and I just collapsed, just fell out. And they ended up calling, they took me to the emergency room. And we got to the emergency room. They didn't really know what was going on. Within minutes, they were rushing me into emergency surgery. They did some light works when I first got there, and come to find out my body was septic and my body was shutting down, and they didn't know why. So they rushed me into emergency surgery, and that's when I was diagnosed with my PSC. And what that is primary sclerosing cholangitis. It's inflammation in your bile ducts. And so what would happen is my bile ducts would get inflamed, and they would shut down the flow from my bile ducts to my liver. And so all my bile stuff would back up into my liver, which end up causing me cirrhosis of the liver. And once that happened, it was just slowly deteriorating. The only cure, they told us that day that the only cure for my condition was going to be a liver transplant. And at that time, I felt relatively normal. Like I was sick, but after I had that episode, once I woke up from surgery, it was like, okay, that's over with. Great. I'm good to go. Let's go. And so they sent me to a specialist, and they, went over this disease with us, and the only cure was going to be a liver transplant. Okay, great. Let's do it. Let's get into it. I'm ready. If that's what it's going to take, let's get it done. Nope, can't do it. What do you mean can't do it? The unfortunate part about, the situation with my PSC is in the United States of America, everything's controlled by our healthcare system. And in our healthcare system currently, you have to be sick enough to qualify for a liver transplant. So even though they knew 7 years ago, the only thing that was going to cure me was a liver transplant, I couldn't get one because I wasn't sick enough. Mind you, I almost died 2 weeks prior to this conversation because my body was septic. And what we experienced with my condition is I went through that same exact thing every 3 to 6 months. Every 3 to 6 months, my bile ducts would back up. I would get extremely sick. My body would go septic, and they'd have to put me in the hospital. They'd have to do this. They'd have to do this procedure called an ERCP, where they would go in and they would try to restrict the inflammation in my bile ducts. They would go in and they would dilate it. They couldn't get rid of it, but they could open it back up again. They would put some balloons in there and open it back up, which would open my flow back up. I would start feeling better for a little bit. It was a vicious cycle. But what they didn't tell us throughout this process, and as we learned over the years, is every single time it happened, it would get worse and worse and worse and worse. So I would develop other stuff. I started swelling up with fluids. I started, my body, I couldn't obtain any nutrients. I started turning yellow. For those that were close to me and around me at that time, you could see how sick I was. I was a ghost shell of myself. And it just progressively got worse and worse and worse. And all the way up to the point until we got to the point where I had nothing left. December 20th-ish of 2022, I woke up, didn't know who I was, didn't know who she was. That developed a condition called
hepatic encephalopathy.
That word, HE, I can't say it to this day, but basically it's where toxins build up in your brain and cause you to get delusional and therefore not know who you are or anything. And that was the last meeting that we had with the doctors here in Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
So this was in January of 2023. I went back to my liver specialist and listen, we were together. It was like, listen, he don't even know who he is. I mean, how sick does he have to get at this point? Like, he has nothing left. He is literally dying. What do we have to do? And they still, University of Louisville would not put me on the liver transplant.
No. They wouldn't tell us, even though all this was happening, like clockwork. I would always ask, well, can you give us a list of you take a medicine, they give you a list of side effects. They wouldn't give us a list of possible things that can. Well, we don't know if it's going to happen. Okay, but I would like to be prepared in case it does, instead of just it happening and be like, oh yeah, that's going to happen. Okay, well, if I would have known before, I could have prepared for it. Like the hepatic encephalopathy, I was like, doc, what do I do? What is there anything you can do? And he's like, oh, unfortunately, this is just, what do you say? An inconvenience. And I'm like, him waking up, not knowing who I am, trying to take himself to the hospital and wrecking on the way there is more than an inconvenience. Thank you very much. Like, it was so frustrating to just not have any answers. It felt like nobody was listening. It felt like nobody was taking us seriously. And it's like, if he was getting sicker and sicker, why weren't we doing anything about it? Why do we have to struggle so much when he's clearly not getting any better?
And then back to where we are on in February of 2023, I went to my primary care doctor, who's been my primary care doctor my entire adult life. I've been seeing him since I was 20 years old. And he suggested that I try to go get a second opinion. And that decision saved my life. I ended up going, he put in a referral request for me to go to the University of Cincinnati. He actually put in two. He put one for Cincinnati and one for Philadelphia. Both have very big transplant centers within their facilities. And I got the call back first from Cincinnati. I got a call from them 3 days after my appointment with my doctor. They met with me. I met with them for the first time on March 11th of 2023. And in that visit, after looking at all my labs and looking at everything that I'd been through, they told me that day they were going to save my life, and they sure kept their word to that. I had to go through a bunch of processes to get approved for the transplant list, which I wasn't able to do in Louisville because they kept telling me I wasn't sick enough. But I had to go through qualifying things. I had to get all kinds of tests done to make sure my body was still healthy enough for a transplant, which is so messed up about our healthcare system. You have to be sick enough for a transplant, but you got to be healthy enough to have the transplant. It's definitely a game of roulette that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But I had to go through several different tests to get cleared for my transplant. The last thing I had to get done was actually from a dentist office. I had to go in and get cleared from a dentist office, which was a little hard for me because I did end up losing some teeth. They pretty much pulled all my teeth out because of infection and stuff that had set up. But I was willing to do whatever it took to get my transplant. And so I got that done on July 11th of 2023. I got approved for the transplant list, and I got enlisted officially to get a transplant. I was on call 24/7 from that moment on. I didn't get the call at any time. And by the grace of God, I'm so grateful by the grace of God, because it just does not happen. 12 days after I got listed, I got the call that that they had a liver for me. We rushed to the hospital, got there a little bit after midnight that night, and within hours, I was in surgery. I think officially I was in surgery by like 2 a.m., I think, 3 a.m., something like that.
It was like an 8-hour surgery.
It was like an 8-hour surgery?
Actually, it was like 6 hours.
Okay.
It was a little under what they told us.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah. I was out. Woke up in ICU with a ventilator, and that began our this side of the transplant. And my transplant, by the grace of God, once again, was nothing short of a miracle. This is the part of the story that I love to tell, and you could tell by the smile on my face. The doctors, the surgeons that came in and talked to us after my transplant, and they said, and they had never seen anything like it. They had never seen anything like it. It was literally like the person, the individual that had my liver was holding it until I needed it. This is nothing short. This is just God showing off. I know you're a faithful man, Ryan, and this is nothing short of a miracle. Every vessel, every vein, every portal was a perfect match to my body. The surgeon said in 15 years, he had never seen anything like it. It's so common when they get a liver in, they have to make a change somewhere. They have to redo a port. They have to redo a valve to make it connect to your body. Literally everything was a perfect match. They told us to be prepared to be in the hospital for 6 to 8 weeks after my transplant. I walked out of the hospital 5 days after my transplant, and I have not looked back since. Within 2 weeks after being home, I went to the gym for the first time, and I've been going to the gym every single day since that day. And as I said, where I got my motto from, make today better than yesterday, I was extremely eager to get my life back, because on that, once I got it, and once everything was good, my numbers were looking good, I was feeling good, I was ready to get out of the hospital, and the surgeon literally told me, listen, you're at day 3. All I need you to do is make every step matter. Make today better than yesterday. And that has stuck with me. And I live by the model that I do. And it's been nothing short of a miracle ever since my transplant. it's just been nothing but just smooth transition after smooth transition. And now I'm 19 months post transplant and living my best life. So
not having to be in survival mode is pretty nice. We've actually had to learn how to do everything all over again, because our whole marriage was based off of keeping him alive and going through the sickness. So now we have to learn how to love each other and learn how to work with each other, and just learning new things about each other.
And that's kind of a part of the story that I didn't even get into, but we got married in August of 2016, and I got sick for the first time in November. So literally 3 months after we got married, I got sick for the first time. So our entire marriage was all about keeping me alive.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're like, what do we do now? Now we get to go live life. And I really appreciate you asking me that very question, Ryan, because I've wanted to get my story out there. I've wanted to tell the version of the story that people can hear and hopefully get motivated from. If there's anybody out there that's listening to this and you're struggling, if you're in my situation where you're needing a transplant, please reach out to University of Cincinnati Medical Center. The number is 513-584-9999. I promise you they will save your life. And I'm not making any money off this. This isn't like a paid sponsorship. This is just 100 a transplant survivor talking to anybody out there that needs it. Please. I don't care where you've been. I don't care what you've been told. If you are in a situation where you're needing a transplant, I don't care if it's liver, I don't care if it's kidney, doesn't matter what it is. If you're in need of a transplant, please reach out to UC Medical Center. I promise you they'll save your life. Thank you, sir.
Definitely. I'm glad you shared that. I'm glad you gave that number out as well. And I'll once we're done here, I'll have you give me that number again. I'll put it in the description of the episode when it gets posted next Monday. But I do want to say that, you talk about your, can you say that motto again, your everyday motto again?
Absolutely.
Make today better
than yesterday.
Make today better than yesterday.
Can you see that?
Yeah, we both have it on the back of our shirts. I'm loaded shit. So, and every one of my wrestling shirts have it on it too. So.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Sure does. I absolutely love that. Whenever I see you post it every day, I love it. And because your story can be an inspiration for someone else, and someone else can get inspired. And they don't even have to be going through the same thing.
Yeah,
just
struggle
in life to make the next day better than the last.
Yes. Yep. Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter what you're going through. Just make the next step matter. Make the next step count. You're never too far gone.
Well,
you're never too far.
Took that model too, because during this going on, I let myself go. Like I didn't have time for myself. I didn't have time to care about my image, my health, anything. So.
Which he asked both perspective. Now that I gave mine, let's hear yours.
So I had gotten up to I was 225 pounds. I had started having blood pressure issues, pre-diabetic, I have a condition called PCOS, and it's where you have more testosterone in your body as a woman than you do estrogen. So that was, taking over my body. I stopped caring about myself because I had to worry about him so much. And so once he was good, once I knew that he was on the road to recovery, I made the decision to, do that for myself, to get back into better health, to make that decision because,
Doesn't she look amazing? She ain't gonna say it. She weighs 141 pounds now. She's lost over 80 pounds in less than 8 months. She is doing amazing. She's going to the gym with me. She is looking amazing. She looks like $1 million. She feels like $1 million.
I got the gastric sleeve surgery on July 1st of last year.
Wow.
And I told myself, once I make this decision, I'm not going back. I'm going to follow this decision. I'm going to do whatever I can because I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I was. And because, he's doing good. He's being healthy. I support him in everything he does. And we, we're that power couple. So, he supports me. And so, we kind of just balance each other out with getting healthy and being the better versions of ourselves that we set out to be. Because originally that's what we were. We were that power couple And then we kind of just, I mean, we really are a power couple. Like over the last 7 years, being as strong as we are, and I found out a lot about myself. You know, everybody's like, why you stayed? And I'm like, why wouldn't I? I took a vow to love him in sickness and in health. You know, I don't know if that means a lot to much people, but that means a lot to me.
He asked like what your perspective when we found out I was sick. If you could talk about it without breaking down, of course.
Right.
How would you put it in your perspective when we found out about
so like
sickness?
he said, when they rushed him into surgery because he was septic the very first time, the doctor, the surgeon literally looked at me and his mom and said, you might want to give him kisses and hugs because he might not make it out of surgery. There's like a 10% chance that he could make it out, and there's a 90% chance that he won't. And you know, this is all just a matter of hours, minutes. And everything slows down because you're going from, you know, we just went to the gym. He was watching TV. I left him at home. You know, you're questioning like, well, is he like a child? Did he get into something? You know, it was just it just 0 to 60, 0 to 150 is what it felt like, you know, waiting. And then, you know, being told that he has this condition and nothing can cure but a liver transplant, and he's just going to continue to get sicker. And at first it was slow, you know, there wasn't really much happening, and we're like, okay, well, maybe it's just going to be this. It's just going to be really slow. We can manage it. It's fine. And then I just started getting progressively worse and worse and worse. And, you know, it's a lot on somebody because, you know, personally, I was trying to keep jobs and be a wife at home and do all these things. But I was really struggling mentally, physically, emotionally. And, you know, you don't want to put that on him because even though he's your support, because he's dealing with a lot. So there was times where it was just really hard to be everything I needed to be and be there for myself and be there for him. And there was a lot of times where I felt like I wasn't there for him as much as I could have been. But it was a struggle. You know, nobody should have to watch their significant other die right in front of them. Being a widow at 30 years old was not something I wanted to do. But I'm grateful that he's here, and then we get to, you know, glow up together, and we get to enjoy a lot of things. So it's just been, you know, I think it was good in a way because we got closer. You know, it taught us that life isn't promised. Tomorrow is definitely not promised. And, you know, just enjoy the little things, enjoy each other. You know, there's no need for little petty stuff and being envious and being jealous of other people, like, you know. So we just kind of, it taught us a lot about each other and a lot about ourselves.
And the type of people we wanted to be.
And the type of people we wanted to be. And just kind of shaped our whole entire lives. Like you said, our whole entire marriage. We actually got remarried. We did our vow renewal 2 years ago now because we didn't think he'd be here for the 10-year anniversary. And actually, our 10-year anniversary is in August of this year. So we're coming up on 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah, so we did our vow renewal at 8 years because we didn't think he would be here. So.
Wow. Y'all said, I'm pretty sure y'all have thought about this. I would do on that 10-year anniversary. I would do it again. I mean,
we're gonna party. Let's be sure.
We're gonna party for sure.
We're gonna drink wine and juice.
Right.
You know, I think I kind of know the answer just based off the story of this one. But what were some of the biggest challenges during the time of waiting on to get that transplant? What were some of the biggest challenges at that time? Like, what were some ways you kept just encouraging him, encouraging yourself even,
well,
and then
every time the phone rang, your heart dropped. First of all, because you were on call 24/7. They could call you at midnight. They could call you at 2:00 in the morning. They could call you at 6:00 in the morning. They'd call you in the shower, and you had to be there within a certain amount of time. So, you know, that was a little stressful. It was exciting, but stressful. And, you know, just keeping him encouraged, making sure he was doing what he needed to do, whether it was medications, eating what he could, because like you said, his body wasn't holding anything. So just keeping him to where he wouldn't disqualify for the transplant when he got it, or something didn't hinder him, or, just kind of like telling each other, this is it, we're going to do it. That next phone call, so.
I think for me, one of the biggest struggles was not having answers.
Yeah.
Not having answers for so long, and begging and begging and begging and pleading. I pleaded with my doctors at U of L to at least let me get on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they could have transplanted me before when they did. And I know everything happens for a reason. And I wouldn't be here today if it didn't play out the way it did. But on that side of the transplant, when you don't have it yet and you need it, and it's the only thing that's going to save your life, and not having answers as to why you can't get it, and just begging and pleading and asking for answers that weren't coming, it felt hopeless. I literally came to the conclusion that I was going to die, and there was nothing else I could do about it. I literally had to. They say, it's cliche. They say live like you're dying, but I'm telling you, it does change you. It changes you as a person. It's changed me dramatically. I had to live like I was dying. I had to I came to the conclusion that I was going to die and that the condition was going to kill me. And I don't want anyone to have to live that way. I really don't. And I'm just grateful once again for being where I am now and knowing that it had to happen the way it did. But I just not having those answers during that time was a big struggle for me.
Well, the condition he had is very rare. So there's not a lot of research. There's not a lot of answers. There's not a lot of stuff being looked into about it. So even Googling, I know you should never Google. Don't Google.
Yeah, I died.
Don't do Google. There's not a lot. You read it and it's just very little. So,
the life expectancy for someone with PSC without a transplant is 5 years. 5 years. I made it 7. And even though I was extremely sick, based off what they know about the condition, I shouldn't be here today. I'm a walking miracle in every sense of the word, and I don't take that lightly. I know I have a purpose, and I'm definitely grateful to be here to still serve that purpose. So,
definitely. Can you talk about the moment of finding out that you were going to get that you, first of all, talking about the moment that you found out that you had a match for a liver transplant, that the match was available. And then in that moment, was there a sense of relief that the wait was just over?
Man, I'm tearing up. Just there's I can't even put into words. I was simply speechless. I literally just broke down and cried. I just cried like a baby. And even then, there was a moment of, well, it hasn't happened yet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're telling us that this is going to happen, but, it hasn't happened yet. So now what? Is this really going to happen? Then the doubt started seeking in. Extremely grateful. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's finally come. We've prayed for this moment. We've begged for this moment. We've pleaded for this moment. Every ounce that we had in us was all wrapped up in that moment. So it was a huge sigh of relief. It was finally somebody's heard us. Finally, somebody's listening to our pleas, and it's finally going to happen. I couldn't get to that hospital fast enough. Could not. It takes and Cincinnati's 97 miles from here, I think is the mileage. On Google, and you put it in your GPS, it's an hour and 37 minutes from my driveway to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center, and I think we made it about 48 minutes. So if we'd have got pulled over, they'd have been escorting us to the hospital because I wasn't waiting. So
and then Miss JMo, for you, how did that feel for you, that moment?
It was relief. It was fear because, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a big surgery. It's now his life is in their hands. So the outcome results on them now. So, it was fear, it was relief. It was, kind of that question, that doubt, oh, well, it hasn't happened yet. So, is this really it? Until we get there and he's in surgery, you know, then you're kind of like, you don't believe it is happening yet. Just anxiety. There was so much. It was like a roller coaster.
Definitely. And game day, what was the game day of that transplant, the emotions? What was going through your mind waiting, the waiting while he was in the surgery?
So he asked me to do like document my weight. So I made a couple videos for him, and it was about a 6-hour surgery. I think they said 8 to 10 was the normal, but his was like 6 hours. So it was just, at first it was a lot of anxiety, and then, you know, a while after you're like, okay, they keep telling you he's doing good. And then I think it finally sank in that like this was gonna be like the start to our new lives, and just planning. I could actually plan for the future now. Before I had to plan for just days, like with the next day. Like there wasn't no next week. There wasn't any, you know, next month. Like it was literally, okay, tomorrow or a couple hours. Like there was no, like he got to where, you know, if we planned a vacation, it had to be like within the next couple of days. There wasn't really any.
Well, that's actually something we're still adjusting to now. We're still afraid to schedule stuff out because we lived that way for so long. So.
And then just, you know, so after, I know you're probably going to ask about after, but when he was in the ICU, like he said, you know, when you walk in there, he's in the bed. They have him shackled to the bed because they don't want him to wake up, and he has a breathing tube in. They don't want him to pull it out. He's hooked up to like this wall of machines, and it's like insulin and stuff he needs. And you know he's okay. Like you walk in there and you know he's okay. You know he's out of surgery. You know that everything went fine. But
they educated her before this to let her know what was coming.
But I still kind of broke down a little bit because like seeing him like that was just a little traumatizing. I'm not gonna lie. But knowing that he was okay. So, you know, his mom and I switched back and forth going into the ICU and spending the night. And there was a nurse in there. He was so amazing because Jesse, like I said, he had a breathing tube in. He couldn't talk. And he was trying to say things, and I was so overwhelmed because I couldn't understand what he was trying to tell me. I didn't know what he wanted. And this nurse stayed in there for hours with me, just, you know, figuring out what he was trying to tell me, figuring out what he wanted. Catering to him, and they would tell me, you know, he's doing great, he's fine, his numbers look fantastic, you know, different things like that. So UC is an amazing, they have amazing staff, they have amazing doctors, you know, everybody there, even if like there were doctors there, nurses there that in the cafeteria that I met, that I told them what was going on, and they were just, you know, well, I'll pray for you all. I hope everything goes through. And they even checked on me after, you know, everything was done. So they are just so amazing. Like I will never forget any of them. And, you know, sticking that, like I said, that nurse that helped me in one of the weakest times, because even though he was doing good, like I said, he couldn't talk, he couldn't really communicate. So it was like, I was frustrated because I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help. I'm your wife, but I can't help you. So it was really nice to have that support there. And just know that like everything was going to be gravy from then on. And then watching him, you know, graduate from the ICU and get up and walk around. He thought he was Superman for the first couple of days because he had a lot of pain medicine in him. And so he thought he was just Superman. He was walking around the hall. He was practically running around the hallways, looking at, he's going, look at me, look what I'm doing. And they're like, let it wear off in a couple of days and then come back and tell me.
So one of the things I didn't know after waking up is they put a bunch of pain blocks in, because I have a scar that pretty much takes up my whole chest. They cut me. I got a huge T on my chest. They cut me pretty much wide open for my transplant. And they put pain blocks. They put pain blocks in through your entire chest wall. So I felt nothing. So for the first 3 days, I was up. I was walking the halls. I was excited. I was ready to move. Doctors kept asking me, you want pain medication? No, I'm good, doc. I'm good. I don't think I'm going to need it. I woke up on that third day. Oh my gosh, I was in so much pain. I was pushing that button so fast. Doc, I need medicine. I need something. This hurts so bad. He was like, I thought you'd be saying that. They already had it ready for me. They were right in there to give
All
me
the
the
nurses
medicine.
were laughing. They're like, "It's gonna wear off. It's gonna wear off, and he's gonna be in a world of hurt."
The great thing about this situation there at UC is that they have a great transplant center. They have a great team of nurses and doctors. They all work together, and it's pretty consistent care through the entire process. So the entire time I was there, the entire crew knew every step of the way. They knew exactly what was going on every step of the way. So like she said, they were like, "Yep, we told you it was coming. We knew it happened to you." So it was great to have that consistent support through the entire process. So
Right on. And you know, so from then we go on to the recovery process. After the surgery, we go to the recovery process. So what was the recovery process like for you, Miss JMo, as his wife and his biggest cheerleader in recovering and taking back his life, taking back your all's life, the both
Yes.
of your lives? What was that? What was that like?
Making him slow down. That was the biggest challenge, I can tell you, because he was ready to just hit the floor running. So making him slow down, making him, we have the rest of our lives now. We have, next week. Like you can just slow down now. Take one day at a time. You're getting better. You're getting better, and then just trying to encourage him when he would think that he would be in a certain level of progression and he wasn't, or certain level of healing, or something would set him back a little bit. Just kind of encouraging him to be like, well, you've done great so far. You're actually ahead of schedule, as the doctors have told you. So you're gonna have those setbacks. You're gonna have and just not only having me, but I encourage them to. They actually have a support group on Facebook for University of Cincinnati. I'm like, get on there, make some friends. If there's something you're going through, maybe somebody else has gone through it too. Just kind of reaching out to your friends and peers, people who know what you're going through. Because I know what he's going through, but there's always that I don't know what he's going through. And so somebody who's gone through exactly what he's going through would know much better than I could, or would maybe be able to help a little better than I could. It's like with mental health. If you don't have the anxiety, if you don't have the depression, you don't know how to help somebody with that anxiety and depression. So, and just like I said, calming him down from going balls to the wall. That was because he was, even now, like his feet hit the floor every morning and I don't see him till bedtime. So I have to catch him when I can.
that's the main reason why she started going to the gym, just so she could see me, I think.
Hey, I mean, it's more bonding. It's more time to build your life together in that way. So that's great. I love it. What are some things you would say you learned from each other in this process? Just in this whole journey together, and taking back your life. What taking back your lives? What is the what are some things y'all have learned from each other?
You first.
Never giving up.
Yeah.
Never giving up. And it took a long time to get to that. It really did. I'll be the first to tell you, I'd given up. I'd given up all hope. And so for me, her commitment to not letting me give up on myself, and her commitment to show me every day the reasons why I needed to continue to fight and continue to get better. I wouldn't be here today without it. Like, I simply 100% would not be here without the love and support that she gave me. And I will forever be grateful for that. So for me, it's the consistency of always being there and being my support and being my backbone, no matter what I was going through.
Definitely.
I guess for me, it's just like seeing how much of a fighter he is, and just being, even though he was going through what he was going through, just making sure he was present, and making sure he could do everything he could to make sure I didn't feel alone, or that I wasn't giving his attention, or that he was still I was still the apple of his eye, whether it be like flowers or just small dates.
Even if there was a worm in it.
Right. Just, not seeing him fight and just loving me unconditionally, even on my really bad days. It's been amazing. And, just finding each other all over again, loving each other all over again, knowing that our foundation was built really strong.
Awesome. I love this. I love this story that you have, the journey that y'all been on. It's something people need to hear. It is really something people need to hear. And you all have both been in this fight together. You've been in this fight together. There's possibly someone out there watching or listening, or that's going to listen to this or watch this in the future, next Monday when it gets put out, and even past then, that they might be going through a battle. They might be going through a fight right now. What is some good advice? What was the best piece of advice, the best inspiration that you would give to them? Whether it be a married couple, whether it be someone that's single, just going through a battle, no matter what kind of, if it's a sickness, if it's a whatever it is, an anxiety, something with mentally, whatever it might be, that fight might be. What would be your best piece of inspirational advice to give them?
For me, it's exactly what the surgeon told me. Every step matters. Every step matters. Make every step matter. No matter where you're at, no matter what you're going through, make today better than yesterday. Every single day. If you do that, you will become who you want to be.
I guess for me, would be just, make your marriage your honeymoon all the time. At least try. Keep that spark. Don't give up. Be present, because your presence means a lot. Learn each other's love languages and try to, incorporate that. Like every night before we go to bed, we tell each other what made each other love each other that day. Like just kind of something that made us love each other more that day. And communication is key. You don't necessarily throw a flat tire out. You try to fix it first. So you try to patch it up first. And I also struggle with mental health issues. A lot of people don't know that, but I do. Anxiety, depression, PTSD. And so, there are dark days. There are very dark days. But there's always a light, so, and I know a lot of people don't feel like reaching out to people sometimes, but there's always somebody out there that you matter to that, can talk you off that ledge or can talk you out of whatever you're going through. So even if it's a complete stranger, just find that person, or, you matter, you're important to somebody. And if you don't feel like you're important to me, so, I share that with a lot of people. Mental health is important to me. I support the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I don't know if you can see my ribbon, but it's a suicide awareness ribbon. I support that cause very heavily. So, and then we also have the Donate Life ribbon. That's what this is. That's his cause now. So, but just, there's light, communication. Like you said, make today better than yesterday. Just support each other, love each other, find that spark, keep keep the marriage alive.
Definitely. That's awesome. Great advice right there. And great inspirational quotes there, and great inspiration right there. But also, I want to just ask you, can just before we get ready to let you go, I want to ask you, with your photography again, give you the chance to let people know where they can look at your photography work and everything. And also, any upcoming shows, JMo, that you want to promote?
Sure.
So my website is goldenagesPhotos.com. You can find other than wrestling, you can find weddings, senior photos. I know prom's getting ready to come up. I'm running a $150 prom deal. Facebook is Allen's One Touch Sports. That's where all my wrestling gets posted. Golden Ages Photos LLC is my regular page. You'll see all of my kids posting me all the time.
Your website.
I just plugged it.
Golden Ages.
Yeah, goldenagesPhotos.com. And then, I'm mostly on Supreme almost every Saturday. They do Final Friday of the month, every last Friday of the month, and then EWA every month, which is Adrian Alexander's show. I'm there every month. And then coming up, I'll be on 4PW, which is Josh Berlin's show. So I'm on a couple there. I don't plan on getting other bookings. Those are my I'm loyal to them.
And
So
since she plugged all that, obviously I'm going to plug OVW. OVW every Thursday night, 4400 Shepherdsville Road, Louisville, Kentucky. Bell time 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6 o'clock. Get there because the shows have been selling out like crazy.
Also, don't forget to check out OVW on TV as well, and on YouTube and all that good stuff. And go check out the Tough Love pay-per-view as well. Go buy it. Do yourself a favor, go buy it. And go check out all these great promotions. Supreme. We support Supreme here at the Final Count as well.
You can catch me at Supreme on the 21st of February as well. I'll be there Saturday night, 21st. So
there we go.
Come watch some good wrestling.
Yes. That's something we like to stress here on the Final Count. Always support any pro wrestling. Support wrestling anywhere you're at in the world. If there's indie wrestling near you, go support these men and women. Support the people behind the scenes. Support the wives, as the wives of the wrestlers, the spouses of the wrestlers in general, husband or wife. Because there's women that wrestle too as well. And so let's support each other. Something we say at OVW. OVW is one big family, whether you're a wrestler, whether you're a staff member, whether you're a fan. We all consider it one big family. And so, wrestling's a family, and you need your family to stick together and come together and support each other. And that's what this episode really has been about tonight or on this episode. And, hope someone learns, people that would listen and watching, they learn, it's all about supporting those that you love, being there for those that you love and care about, and making today better than tomorrow.
Let me say. Let me sign off the way I always sign off.
Yeah, you do.
Don't ever forget, tomorrow needs you. JMo loves you. Make today better than yesterday.
There you go. And JMo, real quick, where can they find you on social media?
Jesse Morris on Facebook. Jesse Morris established 2004 on Instagram and TikTok.
And if there's any promoters out there looking to possibly get you on another show, where can they get in contact with you?
They can reach out to me on Facebook or my email, jjale03@yahoo.com.
All right. Well, at this time, Miss JMo and JMo Jesse Morris, I'd definitely love to thank you all for coming on this episode of the Final Count Spotlight. You're definitely welcome to join me anytime.
Thanks. We really appreciate it. And we really appreciate your support. And as I said earlier on the podcast, thank you for doing this. The support system deserves all the recognition in the world. So thank you.
You're very much welcome. And fans, with that being said, we will see you down the road.
1,